Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with sound engineer Ray Seay discussing his early engineering days in Miami, how technology has made the process a lot easier, and reminiscing on some of his favorite projects to date. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and I'm sitting down with 3-time Grammy-nominated mixed engineer Ray Seay.
Hey.
How you feeling?
Very good.
Good to have you here finally. Yes, with your long-standing history of just mixing a lot of dope records from, your credits go back really as far as like 2005. I have a whole list of credits because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to remember all of these. But,
remember.
T.I., Trina, Lil Jon, Sierra, T.I., I said T.I. again, Rick Ross, Snoop, Flo Rida, like Cash Money. We were just talking about your shirt earlier. Got the throwback shirt on. And even the Hustle and Flow soundtrack, which I thought was cool. So I just want to know, or we'll get started by figuring out how you even landed in the mixed engineer world, the engineering world, rather. From, like, were you around music? I know you just said that's why you wouldn't be an artist off the record initially, because you don't like mics in your face. But a lot of times I talk to people and they're like, well, at one point I did want to be an artist, or, I just really love music. So how did you get your start in?
I started off being a DJ.
Oh.
I was the high school DJ when I was growing up. And
where are you from?
Miami, Florida. Born and raised in the county of Dade.
Okay. Yeah, so being around, Miami and Florida has its own sort of, I don't know what you call it, but sort of genre of music in itself. Yes. And it's always been that way. So being there and being a DJ, what did you learn from that experience early on that was like, okay, I really can rock with this music thing?
Well, it's a combination of how should I say? It was really evolution, because my dad was an electrical engineer.
Oh, wow.
So, he taught me how to wire wiring, soldering, polarity. And I kind of put that along with music together, and that's when I fell into being a sound engineer.
Dope. And you started in Miami?
Yeah.
Cool. And so describe, like, just growing up, like your childhood and how you discovered music in the first place. Obviously we all grew up or had our first taste of music.
Well, my dad had a very big library of records that I used to go through and listen to. Off Earth, Wind and Fire, the old 70s stuff. And I spent a lot of time listening to those records and not knowing that it was shaping my ears. Now that I look back at it, all that time I was listening, I was actually learning sound. What sounds good, what sounds bad, vocal placement, space placement, how things feel within a mix. Like is it live, is it inside? Just different things that I look back on that really helped me become or establish the ear that I have now.
Right. How did you determine that you were going to put down the tables and start engineering?
I had went to a concert one time and I saw the guy behind the big console. And I asked the guy, I said, what is this that you do? What is it job title called? And he says, the sound engineer. I said, okay. So from that point on, I kind of was pursuing it. Told my dad I want to be a sound engineer. We looked at colleges. No, it didn't. Back then, it wasn't a curriculum in colleges. So I ended up going to Full Sail. And then when I went to Full Sail, I was I think the first time I ever seen the SSL board, and I just fell in love. I was like, I want to work in the studio. This is what I want to do.
Wow. So let's talk about your first major credit. Can you remember what that was and how that made you feel to have your first major credit?
Well, I'm going to sound old when I say this. This is a group called The Puppies.
The Puppies?
The Puppies. It was like a Miami bass group. It's a boy and a girl, they're brother and sister. Calvin Mills was the producer. He the one that really gave me a chance to mix records, to work in the studio with him, because I always was behind scenes being an intern. And he asked me one day, he said, "Man, you want to start engineering?" I said, "Sure." And I really wasn't ready, but he took a chance on me, and and then got my first credit, because I think at the time they were just getting signed. I think it was to Universal. And back then, Miami groups weren't getting signed to nothing. That was a big deal back then. And so I ended up working with him, and me and Calvin Mills hit it off. And then Luke Records came around, and Slip and Slide Records came around, and then Mike Karen from Atlantic, and then it just snowballed from there. Mm-hmm.
Why'd you say you weren't ready initially?
Initially, because I was the first time being, I've always... It's the first time being in front of the console, being the captain, I guess.
How could you have been ready?
You're not.
Right.
Yeah, it's like you got to jump in.
So describe those Miami days. What was that like? I mean, you're from there, but just like as an adult, as just getting your feet wet in the studio, like what was that like? I know
Miami was fun.
Some fun times.
Mm-hmm. Especially working with Mr. Luke Campbell. Yeah, those stories are true.
Those stories was some wild, some wild times.
Man. I mean, I've looked at him from the side view, but nah, that's all I'll say about that one.
I got you. Fine. I'll leave it alone. So I want to ask you in terms of the education for mix engineers, because you talked about early on there not being much of a curriculum, whereas you end up going to Full Sail, which a lot of engineers here came out of, and so on and so forth. But is it important to like lock in a program in order to be successful with engineering, and why?
Yeah, because it gives you a foundation. You got to have a starting point. You got to get the fundamentals, I mean. And then once you get the fundamentals, then you start branching out, pushing the envelope, changing the rules or trying different things. But you got to know the basics. Like you got to know signal flow. You got to know, VU, the correct levels when recording. I mean, there's certain things that you have to know that you just don't know from being in your bedroom or just, with no education.
Right. So, and then you talked about interning afterwards, which I know, like, you can't get through a lot of the studios without first interning, or at least not here.
Right.
So what did you learn during that experience of just, like, interning early on and watching and observing, just being kind of like a wallflower almost?
Well, I just learned how a session's supposed to go, how you're supposed to treat artists, how you're supposed to treat producers, record labels, how you carry yourself, being on time, keeping yourself organized. I mean, a lot of those little things, will help your career.
And how would you say you are supposed to treat the artist or the label or whoever, is in the session? What's your proper etiquette for it?
My etiquette is I treat them like a friend. I mean, I don't try to be starstruck. I mean, there's a few times where I had to stop myself and just say, "Look, hey, I'm a fan. I like what you do. Blah blah blah," and then get it out the way, and then get back into being professional.
Yeah. What times were those?
I met Cameo one time.
Cameo?
Yeah, I was sitting there like, man, this is Cameo. I can't believe I'm Cameo.
Like you were working with?
Yeah, I actually did a album project with him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's exciting.
And then after we broke the ice, I had a whole bunch of questions from him, like, man, on those old albums, like, what was this instrument? What was that? How did y'all do this? And he took to that, and like, we would have like long conversations, especially like lunchtime. He was like, man, what is that? It's a cabasa, and this was a flexitone. I'm like, what's a flexitone? Because a lot of times we're not exposed, especially now these days. Everything's a patch.
Right.
You don't see the actual instruments anymore.
That's true. Did you play instruments coming up, or?
I played the saxophone.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, at junior high, Richmond Junior High.
Nice.
Shout out to Richmond Heights.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times that's like our first introduction, if you're in the band or in the orchestra, you get like an introduction to the music business. Yeah. Where the music performance side.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Knowing that I had an instrument, I had a little music theory, that helps out with engineering too.
How?
Because you know what's flat, what's sharp, song structure, verse, chorus, bridges, little things like that, that help you communicate with producers and artists when they say go to the bridge or go to this bar 4 or something, then you have a clue on what's going on instead of just like
What's that?
Yeah.
So how cringeworthy is it to listen to a song that's being promoted on the radio or anywhere that doesn't have the proper mix?
Let's have the proper mix.
Like, it might not even have been mixed at all. And it's just like, you're listening to it like, how is this? Is it cringeworthy, or are you just like, do you wish you could help? Like, what are your thoughts when you hear something like that that's out?
There's times I wish that they would have remixed it, but I mean, I've always been taught a hit song's a hit song. I mean, if you're hitting a trash can, you got good vocals, it's a hit song. But a good mix and make it a classic.
Facts.
It'll play forever. So a lot of times, I hear songs, I say, oh, they ain't gonna last, because it's hard to hear. It's hard to listen to over time. You get tired. People don't realize that, a lot of these songs, they'll play for a week. All of a sudden, you don't listen to it anymore. You wonder why. And then you pick it up a month later and you're like, oh, man, that sounds crazy. What was I listening to?
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So after Miami, where did you go?
Atlanta.
You came
here
to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you come to Atlanta?
At the time, a lot of my work was coming from Atlanta. And I just got married to my wife, Christy. And we decided to move to Atlanta to start a family.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami wasn't the place for that.
I mean, it could have been, but we wanted something different. I mean, because I've been in Miami all my life,
right?
And just wanted to move. Atlanta was at the time was popping.
And when was this? Like the early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s. Yeah,
because that's when you were working with
that's what I did.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah, when I moved up here, that's when T.I. still had a studio, and I pretty much just moved into his spot.
Gotcha.
And I was doing a lot of work out of there. Between there and then I would come here and do work too also.
How'd you connect with Atlanta, like in terms of, I mean, I know you were already working with artists in Miami and building the connections with the labels and whoever there, but how did you say, okay, I'm going to Atlanta and I'm connecting with T.I. or Patchwerk? Like, was it just like a back and forth thing, or?
I mean, at the time I was already going back and forth from Miami to Atlanta. And it was just a transition. Like, okay, I just announced, hey, I'm up here. So now,
let's work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, well, Ray, can you come up? Now it's like, no, I'm up the street now. So
right, I can certainly be here. So talk about mixing on the console. I was watching your Instagram, or looking through your Instagram when I was researching, and you were an advocate for mixing directly on the console. Why is it better to you?
To me, it's just it's an analog. It's hard to explain. It's an analog sound. You get the even harmonics. You get the you don't get the harshness or the highs, and you get a depth to it. You get a feel from analog. I mean, these days digital's awfully close. I mean, the lines is almost blurry where it really don't really make a difference because of the plugins and the technology is caught up so much. But I remember a time when you would never think about mixing inside Pro Tools. I was like, no. But now it's like, the technology is caught up so much, especially with these, UAD plugins, plugin alliance stuff. It's like I feel sometimes I have to, sit back and like, wow, I have an SSL in my computer now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling because I used to own I had a studio in Miami called the Volt Studios, and we had a 4000 G+. Loved that console. And I remember at the time I used to fight it so bad. I was like, no, I'm never going to give up this console. I'm never. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call from SSL. We are discontinued servicing that console, and I was like, "What?"
Oh
so
no!
I saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, "Well, I guess I got to sell this thing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. So with technological changes, what advantages or like what do you appreciate about the changes, and then what do you feel like is a challenge between like technology advancement?
I like this the speed and availability of having your mix as soon as you open the computer. You don't have any recall time. You don't have to make any recall sheets. And you don't have to have replugging all the cables again. So pretty much when you open the computer, hey, you got the recall right there. So
Right.
and it's exact. It's not because the problem with analog back in the day is if you miss one patch, if you have one knob that's not turned right, it just throws the whole mix off, and you're sitting there wondering like what happened. So I mean, digital's definitely it has a lot of advantages.
And are there any challenges or disadvantages to the technology that you use?
Challenges?
Not really.
I mean, I just need more CPU around the CPU usage.
I feel you. So what's your favorite gear that you always bring with you?
My favorite gear. What
This
right
is an
now?
engineer. Yeah, this is an engineer question because I don't know. I'll be learning from y'all.
I don't really bring gear anymore, but I have my favorite set of speakers. I have they're Mackie 624s. Those speakers have got to be at least 20 years old. They don't make them no more.
But they're your favorite.
Yeah, that's my go-to speakers right there.
So what's gonna happen? They're just holding on.
Well, I got a couple replacer woofers already.
So you're
stacked
ready.
up. Yeah.
You're
So,
ready.
but I don't push them that hard. So they last long. They last long. I don't blow them.
Good. Good. So, before becoming the mix engineer, you often are the assistant to the engineer. What's the significance of having a good assistant, like mix assistant? Or is it important for you to have people around you who are learning and working towards, eventually being to where you are now and having that experience?
Well, having a good assistant makes the session go smoother because, a lot of times I don't have to. They're like they're almost like a step ahead of me.
Gotcha.
They keep an eye on the clients. They keep eye on the where the where the microphones are set up, and just kind of keep control of the session.
Understood. So how have you been able to keep a consistent line of work over the years? I know like someone's always going to need, the engineer.
Right.
But at the same time, which engineer? There are so many.
Yeah.
Especially now. There are many. And so many studios, so many engineers. How have you been able to keep a consistent line of work?
Well, these days you got to have social media. I'm trying to keep up with it. I mean,
yeah, I see you posting.
I mean, but back, a couple of years, more than a couple of years ago, it was really on your work.
Right.
If you do good work, you continue getting work because people will hear that product and say, hey, that record sounds good. Who did that?
Right.
And read the credits and say, hey, Ray did that, Leslie did that, or whatnot, and then they get them. But these days, it's all about social media. I'm just post this, post that, and I'm just trying to keep up.
Yeah. But like, you don't think it's a word of mouth thing still? Because I'm like, people are dying for a Ray Seay mix.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a word of mouth. I mean, I thank God that I have a good track record still that people can say, whoa, he mixed that song. Well, I'm gonna try him out. So,
right.
But the new guys that are coming up, I mean, it's all about social media and social presence.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have a social media presence, you're out of sight, out of mind almost.
That's true. That's very true for any industry,
Yeah.
honestly. So do you have a certain standard at this point for which clients you choose or prefer to work with?
No, I mean,
like,
as long as the check clears, I mean.
Facts. If the money right.
If the check clears. I mean, in my 20 plus years of working, I think I've only rejected 2 clients.
And why?
the song was terrible. I mean, I couldn't do nothing with it. I mean, absolutely nothing. No auto-tune, no rearrangement. I mean, it was just straight garbage. Yeah.
Because that's more so what I was asking. Like, you know, do you want your name attached to something that is just like unbearable?
No.
Right.
No.
But it's only been two people that...
Only two.
Or two songs.
Only two songs, yep. And there were very few far in between. But I usually I try to do everything with all my ability and give them the best product, no matter if it's, you know, a label or independent. I mean, my name's got to go on it, so when people hear it, I want them to be like, hey, that sounds good. Who did that?
Right, exactly. I think that's important. I mean, especially when you're trying to keep a consistent... Because, you know, these days, one thing happens and your entire legacy is like, what about all the other things I did, you know? So I think that's important. So how do you feel about music today versus when you first started mixing? Speaking of like the content, what you have to listen to, what projects you're working on.
That's a good question, because I was just talking to some other fellow industry people about it the other day, and it's really like the music structure, you know, like like we're listening to some of the songs. Like when's the last time you ever heard of a musical intro without no vocals? Like the structure of music. Right now, it's really all about kick, snare, hi-hat that's loud as I don't know what, a bass that's booming, and loud vocals. I mean, a lot of times you don't hear the melody, you don't hear the music, and the cadence of all these rappers are all sounding to me like they all sound the same. Yeah. You know, so.
I mean, but do you think you attribute that to the consumer?
Yeah. I mean, it's that, and it's like the technology that we got our hands on is supposed to make us smarter and better. Is actually making us sound, lack of better words, dumber. Like it's dumbing it down. And it's, you know, all this technology we have, we should be creating some stuff that just
out of here.
Yeah. I mean, like when you listen to these Michael Jacksons and other records, they only had 24 tracks, 48 maybe, you know, and that was a lot. And now you have a Pro Tools that has 200 some plus tracks, and we don't know how to use it, you know, properly. So
that's it.
Yeah,
So how do you, or what would you say your advice you'd give to the artist from the engineer's perspective, just based upon, just generally speaking, some things that you noticed about young artists today, from your perspective, some things that they should come in prepared when they're trying to get a record mixed or whatever, honestly. Even sonically, like the things that they decide to implement in the records, like that you just feel like, you know, maybe you could approach it this way.
Well, I mean, a lot of the new artists, they have good ideas. I wouldn't say I wouldn't change any or hold them back, but I do one thing I suggest even to everybody is to stop having this thing called demoitis.
What's that?
You ever heard of that before? It's where the artists or the producers, they've heard their song a million times, so now it sounds correct to them. So it's stuck in their mind. So when they send it to a person like me who's got fresh ears and say, hey, that's not right, this is not right, this is not right, let's do this, do that, they're like, but nah, I like the vibe. I want to, you know, that's the sound. And you trying to tell them, like, no, that's not the sound. That sounds terrible. To kind of like, you know, if you're gonna hire an engineer to bring something to the project, let them bring it to the project. You know, don't
so stuck in.
Don't get stuck. You know, and stop telling us make it sound like the demo. Just run with the demo. Just you know, don't let's not waste our time 8-12 hours trying to get something that you're gonna go back and say I like the demo better. Right. So you know this is if we can get rid of demoitis, I would so like it. I would so like it. It'll make my job much more easier.
So what about best advice to a new engineer?
A new engineer
trying to get their feet wet. Just they were a young Ray Seay in Miami, just trying to get their feet wet.
I would say, you know, what helped me was trying to get under an established engineer that you know or that you like to pick up tricks, pick up ideas, pick their brains, have conversations with them. You know, why did you do this? And what do you suggest about that? Or even with today's technology, just sometimes I have other engineers that are up and coming. They'll send me their stuff and say, well, tell me what you think. And I'll look at it and be like, you know, you should try this. And you know, you're doubling this is really not doing anything. Just try to learn from other engineers that are at the point where you want to be.
Right.
You know, because when I was coming up, I was looking at, I looked up to like Tony Maserati, Bruce Mitchell, Dennis Mitchell. I mean, a couple of those guys. And when I got a chance to sit under them and just watch, I mean, I just try to soak up so much information from them and then apply it to the way I feel, my ideas.
And you talked about sessions being anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Is that for one record?
Yeah. I mean, when I was coming up, I mean, we used to spend 3 or 4 days mixing a song. Now labels and everybody want it done in 4 hours, and it's like, I'm like, I don't know if I could do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is because it's time consuming. Would you say that patience is a really huge trait that you need to have in terms of being an engineer, being able to sit with something for that long?
It's really more of a passion and a drive to get the best sound out of what you're working with.
Yeah.
To especially with digital, you can replace stuff. So a lot of times, if you listen to a kick and it's just not quite there, replace it. Replace with something that's more, I guess, banging or bigger. I just had a brain freeze.
That's okay. I was just asking,
what was the question again?
Well, you said that drive and passion are more so what will allow you to sit in a space for that long. Because I'm restless.
Yeah.
Like even right now, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So and a lot of engineers that I've met, through Patchwerk and through other studios, y'all have very, very, y'all are very patient and very calm almost.
Right.
It's like, yeah, like being the wallflower, not really more observant. There are just certain characteristics and traits about an engineer that are different from someone who might be talent or, on the opposite end of the business.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's more of a drive than being patient.
Okay.
Just to get your idea out, to be patient, to know that, you might have to step away and come back to it and listen to it with fresh ears. You just gotta know the difference. You gotta know, that sometimes you might have to recalibrate your ears, like pull up a CD that sounds right, just so you can see if you're in the ballpark or if you're way off your mark.
Right. Yeah.
So it's so the patience part. It's not really being patient. It's really the drive. Like what do I want to do to this song?
Right.
I want it to sound big, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get it there.
Is that always the goal, for it to sound big?
For me, it is. I want it to sound amazing.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a kick snare and a vocal. I want it to be like, people be like, wow, what is that? And not like, oh, that's a nice song, but it don't sound right to me. Just my passion is always to give you the best.
Absolutely. So as I was, just researching you, also there are so many people that are like, legend, GOAT, legendary. This was. How does it feel to be called legendary for what you do? Would you agree?
I mean, I don't see it. I'm a humble man. I'm still driving and still trying to get it, just like everybody else.
Right.
I just been at it for a little bit longer than everybody else right now.
Yeah. So how would you define success if you feel like, from what you just said, that you may not feel that you've reached that level of success yet? How would you define success? What is success to you?
Success. That's a good one, because I've always tried to get better. More than success, I've always tried to get better. Each record that I try to work on, I'm trying to get better than my last one. So I guess just to be successful would be, you know, a long-lasting career, you know, of course the money to be able to take care of you, you know, you and your family. And man, I never really thought about what is success for an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the accolades are good, getting the plaques and the Grammys and you know, getting recognition. I guess that'd be part of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been nominated for 3 Grammys?
I've been nominated. Yeah, I haven't won one yet.
Not yet, but we're working on it. So how did it even feel to be nominated for a Grammy, though? Were you excited?
Oh, it was great.
What was the first one?
First one was T.I.'s album. I forgot which one it was.
But didn't Hustle and Flow win it? Or was that, didn't they not win the Grammy?
It was up for Rap Album of the Year.
Oh.
That
So
was
what did
one.
3-6 get the
3-6?
Mafia? Didn't they get a Grammy, or I'm tripping?
I didn't do 3-6.
You didn't. I just thought that they were part of. I thought it was for Hustle and Flow, but that's my bad.
Right.
So the first one was for T.I.?
Yeah, it was a T.I. I forgot what album it was. The second one was Kenton Jones, Under My Window. Yeah, it was Gospel of the Year single, or I think it was Song of the Year, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The third one, I forgot which one the third one was.
I had them written down myself, but I can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what your like favorite project was to date. Like just an experience, even working with an artist aside from Cameo. I know you mentioned Cameo, meeting him, but just an experience of like working with certain artists that was just very memorable and you will never forget it, even if it wasn't like you loved it, but it was just very memorable.
Man, I have a couple of them really. First one was a lot. I don't get a lot of recognition for. Was I worked with Inner Circle back in the day when I was at Circle House. Working with them was enlightening. I learned a lot working with them. You know, it's I'm trying to think of another one. Working with Luke was fun. I mean, despite the other aspects of it,
Right.
He's actually a very hard worker. I mean, when we're in the studio, once the you know the once we start recording, all that play stuff stops. I mean, once we're mixing, he's on point. That was memorable because he was another stepping stone in my career. I think I look back because when I mixed that song "Scarred" with him and Trick Daddy, when Trick first got out of prison, we had an argument because the way I was mixing the song, I was doing a lot of those dropouts, like how DJs do a lot of times. And at that time, people weren't doing that. And I would sit there and tell I said, Luke, you are a DJ. This you're known from this, because that's what he was known for back in the day when he was coming up. You know, being on the park and set up the big speakers and DJ. And I said, man, this is what you're known for. And he would say, no, take it out. I was like, I'm trying to tell you, leave it in there. I mean, we actually like really argued, like cursing at each other. And then he let it go. He stopped fighting me. He came out, and it was a big song. I mean, that was another learning aspect of it. And
did that teach you to stand firm on what you believe?
I mean, you can't do that with everybody.
Right.
I had a relationship with Luke at that time.
Right.
Because we're both from Miami. We was cool. You can't do it to everybody because you get kicked out the session real quick.
Right. I mean, when do you realize when it's okay to, kind of like push it to the artist? Like when like, okay, look, no, I'm telling you, like this is it, or let me just let it go.
I mean, it's one of the things you just know. I mean, you know who your friends are. You know what things you can say to them and what things not say to them.
Got you. Mm-hmm. Got you. So, Luke. Inner Circle. Lil Jon was a good experience. Why is that?
Because working with him, I'm gonna say this about Lil Jon and Manny Fresh, because that was the first time I've seen a producer have actual, almost a band in the studio with him as he's programming. He had a bass player, he had a keyboard player, and he had people playing around him, and they would just vibe.
Yeah.
Just make up songs right there on the spot. And that those were cool times. I mean, because a lot of times we would sit in the studio for 12 hours, just sitting there vibing, just trying different beats, and I'm just sitting back there, nodding my head, just vibing. I'm not really doing anything yet because they haven't got a song for me to record.
Yeah.
But those are good times.
That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
When people actually using instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot of different platforms where you'll have like the Anderson Paaks or whoever. I know Big Boy was on one of them for NPR where they do like a live of recording. So that's cool that people are still implementing the live, but I do want to hear more instrumentation on these records. So
yeah, instrumentation is nice.
It is. It's nice. It gives it more of a real feel. So let me ask you, why do you do music?
I just love it. I mean, I just had a passion for it at an early age. Being a saxophonist and then going into being a DJ and then evolving into engineer. I just love music, and especially the stuff that sounds good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a passion. Like, I just like hearing stuff that's different. That's, something that makes me like, well, how did they do that? I want to do that.
Do people come to you and ask you that often? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Or, know?
Yeah, I give them points, to say, well, I did that in this song, or I did that in this song. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, yeah. And vice versa. I did the same thing, with other engineers when I was coming up. I would ask them, like, well, how did you do that? What was it? What equipment did you use? Mm-hmm. No, nowadays it's more plugins you use.
Right, what plugins you got.
Yeah.
So let's talk about handling the business. I know when we talk to producers and artists, obviously they have to get certain things copywritten and, coded and all the paperwork part of it.
Right.
But for the engineer, what sort of business are you required to do? I mean, if you're working out of the studio, it's a different situation, but, you mentioned some sheets that you used to have to do. Oh, recalls. But that's, neither here nor there. Is there a certain paperwork or admin side or just having your own business, working independently? What are some things that you would recommend to a new engineer that's trying to figure that out?
Well, I would definitely get an LLC company so you can write stuff off.
Right.
And make sure you keep your log, your hour log together so you can bill the client and establish a relationship with an A&R or an admin person to get they call POs or purchase orders, which are which is almost good as having cash in hand because that money is allocated to get to you. And I suggest, try to do things on your own as long as you can until you need a manager or need an assistant to somebody to help you with it.
Got you. And do you have a team that helps you?
No, just me. Well, my wife, she helps me sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time I do my own admin work.
And how's it, being in the studio so long and having these sessions and just consistently working the way that you do with a family? How have you been able to manage that relationship, and then you have children?
It's a balance. I mean, I try to be home. I definitely don't hang out in the studios like I used to because I want to get home and be with my family. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I remember back in the day where I would, I wouldn't go home. I just stay in the studio. But the family has definitely reallocated my time, because I got a 17-year-old daughter that's about to go away to college, and I don't want to miss her growing up, and my two sons, and they're doing their thing. So yeah,
that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, would you say that you have to have an understanding partner in that situation? Because I know a lot of engineers, that are my age and my friends, they're like, it's difficult to date. Yeah. It's difficult to hang out.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the studio, and when I am dating somebody, and that's just even if you're not an engineer and you're just working in the business period. Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Luckily, my wife was with me when I was first starting engineering, and so she understood the sacrifices and the things I was trying to achieve. Right. And she was very supportive.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of times she used to make fun of me because I used to sometimes you have to work for free. And, you know, she used to say, "You're working for free. I'll pay you that. Let's go on a date." You know, like, so, you know, she said it jokingly, but, you know, look back on it, she was very supportive and understanding that, you know, I had a goal that I wanted to achieve.
That's what's up.
You know.
That's important.
Mm-hmm.
I know you didn't mention these records in terms of, but I just have to shout them out because they're like classic.
Okay.
Low, Flow Rider was like a huge record.
Can I tell you a story about that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, Flow. I mixed the record 12 times.
Really?
Yes. And then the label ended up going back to the first mix.
What?
Yes. Yes. It's
Why?
Yeah.
Why'd you have to do it 12 times?
The label wasn't happy with it. They're saying, do it again. And I kept mixing. And then I think a DJ heard the first one and said, "This is the one." I think the story was. And then going back to the first mix. Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Because you probably were, by the 12th time, just like, look, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. And that record was initially, if I remember correctly, it was for somebody else. Mm-hmm. It wasn't initially for Flow Rider. I forgot the artist it was, but
I feel like I heard that too, but I don't remember. Somebody else, I can't think of it right now, but that was a 7-time multi-platinum record, so that first mix was it.
Yeah.
Go with your first thought, huh?
Yeah. That was fun.
That's fun. And then Sierra's Goodies.
Oh, yeah.
Was a huge record.
Yeah.
That you mixed as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lil Jon told me, "Hey, I got a record. I want to mix this record for this girl named Sierra. She's real nice." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I said, "Goodies." I'm like, "All right, well, Goodies it is." Mixed it. I think we mixed that song at Circle House in the B Room. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, and then and the last one I'll talk about is T.I.'s Paper Trail. The entire album.
Yeah, I don't think I mixed it.
Not the entire album?
I think I mixed most of it. I don't
most
think I mixed
of the album.
Yeah. T.I., he's a hard worker too. When he comes to the studio, he's all about business. He's
not playing around.
He's not playing around. I mean, he's social. Don't get me wrong, but no groupies, no people hanging around. If you there, you're there to work.
Do you prefer that the artist is there with you and the producer is there with you while you're mixing, or are you the type that kind of would rather just do it and then they listen in?
It's different situations. If I'm working with a new producer, I want him there because I want to see his vibe. I want to understand his direction, where he's going with the song. But like, you know, if I'm working with an established producer that I've already worked with for years, I just, hey, just send it to me, or, you know, book a studio and I'll call you when I'm done.
Right.
You know, because I already know, you know, what they're looking for, how, you know, that way, you know, I don't have to sit there and have a conversation and look at them asking me a whole bunch of questions.
Right, while you're trying to work. Exactly. Okay, so my last question is, I know you love golf.
Oof. Don't get me in trouble.
How is that like a release for you? Just something you love to do to relax?
That's my drug of choice. Yeah, I mean, one day I realized I can't keep up with these young boys on the basketball court no more.
So you had to go to the
I had to find
course.
the next best thing. You know, so I'm an avid golfer, yes.
How often do you go golfing?
I mean, if it was up to me, I'd probably play every day.
Every day?
I would play every day if I had a choice.
Oh my gosh. No, my little sister is at West Georgia for golf. So,
okay.
And I was like, I feel like I shared this with, who is it, Rob Watson that was on here? 'Cause he talked about making connections through golf.
Right.
And that's kind of how we started the conversation. But my stepmom put us in a minority league for golf a long time ago. Yeah. But I just feel like that's like just a skill that everybody should have because it's like a conversation thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if I had to do it again, because I remember Luke was an avid golfer back in the day. He always used to tell me, say, "Come on, man, let's go play golf." And I'm like, "Man, I ain't going to play no golf."
Right.
Golf? But now I look back, it's like, man, I should have went.
Right.
I mean, there's a stress reliever. get out there, get some fresh air, especially on like spring.
Oh, yeah.
Here in Atlanta, spring, oh my goodness.
Look, you're excited.
Oh, I can't wait.
I already starting to smell the trees. So spring is definitely around the corner.
Yeah, man, that's the best time.
Ray Seay about to be on that golf course, y'all.
I need to get some more birdies.
Lovely. I was just curious to ask that. And then, what's next for Ray Seay? What are some of your next goals?
I wanna try to break into the movies.
Yes.
Mixing for movies, since the industry is moving here, since Hollywood is basically here, to try to get in either post or something where I can use my talent to make movies sound good.
Absolutely.
That's kind of my transition. I think I'm gonna try to do, but I'm not gonna give up on mixing any records. So please send me the records. Yes.
How can I get in?
I'm still mixing records here.
How can I get in touch with you?
They can reach me on my IG. It's Ray RAY _ my last name SEAY.
Dope.
Just send me a DM and we'll work it out.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sitting with me. I really learned a lot about you, and I would really suggest to anybody that's listening to look at all his credits. He's done way more than we were able to talk about today, and continues to just be a pivotal person in the engineering space and the music industry. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and as always, of course, as always, you guys can follow this podcast on social media at IDM Podcast, as well as myself at Sammy Approved. And thank you for tuning in. Sonic.